Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Final Fantasy VI Randomizer Worlds Collide. This is the semifinals of the Returners bracket. Tonight we have Locke Live versus Jackamus Wedge. This is Yakko Wacko 20, and with me in the virtual commentator booth, I've got Seto Kaiba here.
Hello, everyone. Hopefully we have a great race tonight.
Well, we've only got 4 people left in the tournament, so I'm definitely expecting a race here tonight. This is the winner of tonight's race will face Javinator in the Returners Finals, which will probably happen sometime later this week. The runner-up in this race will finish in 4th place overall.
That's right, and all 4 of our racers are really, really excellent. With the qualifier, these were the top 4 seeds, and we're also seeing the best tonight. Even if it's the returners bracket, these are 2 top tier racers.
So some things we can expect in tonight's race. It is the same flags as the last race on Thursday. It is 6 characters required, 9 espers, and 4 dragons in order to take on Kefka's Tower. But a couple of things to note is that we know who the starting characters are going to be. It's going to be everybody's favorite pair, Mog and Umaro.
That's right, and while it might be a little bit rough to start, it will mean that we're going to see hopefully see some similar routes at the beginning, because with lack of checks, there's only so many options over there.
And we are off to the races here, and as expected, both of them appear to be, actually, Locke is going into the World of Ruin first, so we're getting a little bit of a change here.
That is an interesting choice by Locke. This round had 1 mystery flag, and that was that Farm Rush did not have to be learned last, that you can learn it at any time. Locke picked up on that and decided to instantly go and pick up Farm Rush at the beginning.
Alright, well, while we're getting underway here, also, we're getting a random battle on Jackamus' side. I guess he's either going for a grind there, or he forgot to put on his Moogle Charm.
And that's something that happens, but you can take a potential mistake like that and turn it into a benefit. Getting some early experience is very crucial here, because getting out of level 3 without being able to buy breakable rods is going to be a challenge for our racers, so hopefully that helps Jack out quite a bit.
And that was an interesting one, because sky bases are not exactly one that you want to start at on a lower level. And also, something else to make note of is that Mog will have the natural magic ability that Terra normally has, so at least they do have something else going for them here.
That's right, and so fortunately that means that they only have 1 character they can really kind of play around with at the beginning, and should definitely lead to maybe some interesting decisions up front. looks like Jack has also elected to go and grab Bum Rush. So we should see, hopefully, a lot of bum rushing in this seed.
While we're getting underway, I also want to thank our tracker, Ceiling Cat, and also our restreamer, Jabinator.
It looks like Locke has elected to go to World of Ruin Albrook. Not typically a town you see in your early check rotations, but being in World of Ruin definitely is. There's a few treasures you can pick up here on top of shop checking, so it is a pretty solid play early on.
Yeah, there's about 6 checks here, and it looks like Molly's got some money and some warp stones, so that'll be good. For shield in the armory, that can be depending on the runner, if anybody would be interested in those. I personally like them, but I know a lot of runners don't.
And especially in the Coliseum, for those who maybe have not had the chance to watch the earlier rounds, every round we have been adding more and more flag changes to ramp up the difficulty a bit. And a few weeks ago, we changed it so that shops now are tiered instead of random, which means the top tier items are a lot less likely to show up. So something like a force shield could be a good use of money, considering that there might not be a lot of other options available.
And Jackamus is going to be getting our first checks underway here. He is in the Narsh treasure room, which will unlock Lone Wolf. And we'll probably also see our first crack at Kefka at Narsh, see if it's a character or something else.
And that's one of the few routes they can take early. One of the nice things about starting with Mog is that even though Kefka at Narsh is no one's favorite check, you can at least double dip a bit and hopefully find some sort of progress at Kefka at Narsh. Meanwhile, we have Locke checking to Zen. I see that the Thief is not an Esper. It is a regular. Oh, no, I'm sorry. We're World of Ruin, so we do not know what the Zen Thief is. You only see that in the World of Balance. But the price was quite high, so Locke elects to not buy that at the moment.
Meanwhile, we got a little more shopping going on in Narsh before we go up to the mountain. And also we'll be able to get a clue as to what the Umaro check is going to be, because that's probably going to be what they do next, considering, well, depending on what is up on the mountain. And we can see it is not a character. So we'll see if we get an Umaro check tonight.
Right, so that means progress is locked behind either of the two checks that Jack is heading towards right now. Of course, Kefka with Narsh with 2 characters is extremely rough, and if we are gated behind there, that could pose quite a challenge to our food runners. Oh, and we have Best Girl Tara behind Kefka at Narsh.
The GOAT.
Fortunately, there is a third character with Go-Go here, which will at least allow Jack, if he elects to do Kefka at Narsh now, to go with a party of 2, which makes Kefka at Narsh a lot more tolerable this early.
Well, the good news is he's got a character. The bad news is it's Go-Go.
I did not get a chance to see what Mog's starting ability was, but it does give Go-Go a few extra options to potentially use here.
And we're off on Jackamus' side while Locke is raiding San Figaro, getting some more treasure.
And while maybe in some races, and Kefka at Narsh might mean purposely taking encounters here to gain levels, we are set at pretty highest. And so you can't really grind your way out of a potential, issue like this. However, Mog does have Blitz, so with Mog and Go-Go, hopefully they can make short work of whatever boss is here with Bum Rush.
Looks like Locke is going into the Coliseum to maybe get some early quick items here. Looks like he got a Regal Cutlass on that fight.
One change in this round was we have opened up even more potential rewards for the Coliseum, and so this might be something we see our runners dip into a lot, since there is quite a lot of items on the reward menu.
And we have Air Force as the Kefgat Nourish boss, which is not the most ideal for blitzers, but at least he did get a good one on the first run and the second one, so that's definitely going to help.
That was extremely good RNG for Jack. One disadvantage of running blitzers with Bum Rush, even though Bum Rush is extremely powerful, is the lack of aiming. So multi-target bosses can be problematic or slow, depending on what the dice roll wants to be.
Yes, that's definitely, especially a quick Kefgat Nourish is really going to help him. And Terra, of course, opens 5 checks now for him, including the ever so important Cave to the Sealed Gate, which has lots of treasure in there.
And with the start of Mog and Umaro, you must feel relieved if you're Jack to see so many checks open to you. Because if it was another character, or if you just had to work with Go-Go, you might be a lot worse off and have to do some checks that you might not find to be very ideal. So he has plenty of options.
Guess he decided not to check the Welk check while he was there. Might as well if you're right there.
He could be maybe healing or saving before that check, or just electing to come back with better gear. Meanwhile, Locke is checking the returner's hideout, looting that for some things that you might want to end up selling later. And looks like now he will probably be going up and making the same Kefgat Nourish check.
And as expected, Jackamus is heading into the Cave to the Sealed Gate. First, we're going to raid this treasury here, see if we got anything to write home to Mom about.
Looks like Jack picked up a fixed dice, which, if someone can equip that, will also very much increase his offense early on. Fixed dice being a very powerful weapon, especially early. Some good rolls can really make mincemeat out of some bosses.
A couple of decent armor pickups. He picked up a flame shield, one of the 3 elemental shields, and also the dart gear, which is a good later armor, especially for Locke or Shadow, but it does give a +6 speed.
And with the flame shield, I personally love seeing elemental shields early. Sometimes magic can be a little sparse, and learning the level 2 spells can be quite an offensive boon early. Not that they maybe need it with the Bum Rushes. But you also never know what a breakable shield, doing that early might get you over some of the early boss humps that you have.
And for those of you who are noticing the title of tonight's stream, no, this is not Doesn't versus Javinator, as that actually took place on Thursday. This is Locke versus Jackamus for the round 7 of the semifinals for the returners bracket. So that just unfortunately didn't get updated. So don't be confused. We're always confused, so no worries.
One thing that we maybe didn't fully explain earlier is with Jack right now checking the Sealed Gate, that is what we call a free check in Worlds Collide, which is a check that does not have a boss or any battles in front of it. Sealed Gate in particular is a very popular free check because it has multiple treasures in it. Seeing it early can be really good because you might find some items that really sway things in your favor, or just a bunch of things you can sell for better items or the auction house later on.
And unfortunately, it is a dead check, but it is a behemoth suit, which is not too shabby. It's got some good stats on it, and it's actually in vanilla. It's actually Realms and Strago's most powerful armor.
Right, which also, unfortunately, can sometimes work against it in Worlds Collide. I believe we have our equipment set to original plus 20% random, and with only 2 characters in vanilla being able to use it, that might restrict how many characters can equip it in this run. So we'll see in a little bit next time Jack heads to the equipment menu. Meanwhile, Locke is at our Mog check and will most likely also be doing Kefka and Arsh. He is probably also feeling very relieved to see a second Blitz user. And it should have no problem with Air Force, especially if he gets some of the RNG luck that Jack ended up with.
And if not, then he'll probably just take another round to take him down. Okay, so the Zen check.
I was going to ask you about that.
Okay, yeah, the Zen check was a Force armor, so it was another dead check, but it was pretty cheap, only 9,500. So, nothing really to complain about. So, that's a good armor. It's a plus 30% on your magic defense, and it's got some good stats on there as well.
One thing to note on lock screen that we did not mention earlier is that we do have some customizations in this round. Mostly palette swaps like most Coliseum reigns, but it looks like Boo added in the White Mage sprite for Kefka. Something you typically don't see full sprite replacements, but definitely comical to be able to check that out.
When was the last time you've seen a White Mage as the final boss in a game?
It might not be something I've seen. Most of the time I try not to even bring them into final bosses. As chat pointed out, Locke elected not to save before Kefka at Narsh, which could be potentially bold, but if his bum rushes land, it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Oh, and it looks like he has it.
Yeah, he actually saved before he picked up Go-Go. He actually utilized the multiple save spots that you can put your game on, which actually can be very helpful, especially in certain points in the game. Especially if Jackinus goes down the Leet River, which he might at this point. It's highly recommended to use those additional save spots because you could get stuck if you've got a bad boss.
Exactly. There's a number of checks such as Cyan's Dream and Leet River that you can be locked into if you save in the middle of it. And you could get into a state that is very hard or straight up impossible to get out of. Leet River, not being a check you see too often, it is rather long, especially when you run into level magics like this, could be potentially dangerous. And it'll be interesting to see what ends up being behind this check.
Yeah, there was a race earlier in the tournament. I was actually commentating it, and it was very unfortunate. One of the runners only used one save point. They were in MRF, and the boss at the end turned out to be Magimaster, and it was just so unfortunate. They actually ended up forfeiting the race because they were stuck.
It must feel like just running into a brick wall at that point, even if they didn't save in, it can be really frustrating to potentially lose that progress on a check like that, having to reset out and missing the earlier stuff that you picked up on the check.
Got some
The
tough...
river itself is not, yeah.
Yeah, some tough enemies in here. We got Magics, we've got Veterans, which always annoy me. Oh yeah, the Pug too. Oh my gosh, this is like Leet River on steroids here.
Though with the Pugs, there is a chance that he does have Steel. If he could heal up and have a full party, he might try to risk stealing a Minerva from the Pugs. I believe there's a 1 in 8 chance to steal Minerva from them.
Minerva is a very busted armor, as it nullifies 4 magics, fire, water, lightning, and wind, and cuts the others in half. Also gives stats up for every point on the level, and also plus 25% magic points. So not too shabby if you can catch that.
Exactly. It is, in my opinion, the best armor in the game, restricted in vanilla to the two ladies, Terra and Celis. But having Terra, he knows he's guaranteed to have someone who can actually use the armor. We are actually being corrected in chat that the lone pugs, or pug singular, doesn't actually have a Minerva, so that is not an option available to our runner. One thing to note with the Leet River check, it is, like we said earlier, not the most popular check, but sometimes in a race you want to maybe take a check that you don't think your opponent is going to take, because it could be the thing to break the seat open. It could be a dead check with something game-changing like a Valiant Knife, or this early on with not as many checks available, it could be the progression that you need that your opponent ends up getting.
Yeah, so it is a double-edged sword, so we'll see. We're about to find out, unless we have another random battle, what's going to happen here. And big thank you to WhoDat42, who just gifted a bunch of Tier 1 subs to a bunch of our members. Thank you so much.
Get some snaps in chat for WhoDat, thank you. And Jack has run into number 24, definitely a boss that's a little bit more on the easier end, so he must be feeling really relieved to find that and not one of the tougher bosses at the end of this long locked-in check.
Especially, it's got the same sprite as Magimaster, so I saw that. I didn't see the number 024, and I was like, oh god, no, but fortunately, it's the baby version.
And Jack picks up his opponent's namesake, Locke, from Leet River. Locke having a handful of checks and definitely opens him up for a completely different route than we might see the runner Locke go.
And he has natural jumps, so if we can get a Dragon Horn, he's going to have some fun with Locke.
I personally get very excited when I see Locke as a character, because you know with this flag set that he is guaranteed to be able to use both snipers and Valiant Knives, both which can be extremely quick and powerful in-game builds, especially with something like an offering. And so you know with that and natural jump, a lot of offensive potential you have with Locke.
And he's going straight for Narsh, so we're going to get a free check in the weapon shop, and we'll probably see what the Cursed Shield's going to bring us.
And that is our first Magistrate of the game. No check has yielded one yet, and it looks like Jack is electing to not pick up the Cursed Shield.
Okay, interesting. Well, the Paladin Shield does not have Ultima, but the Paladin Shield is still a very useful defense item. So it's to each their own on that one.
On this flag set, we have the battles turned down on the Cursed Shield quite a bit, but perhaps he doesn't think it's worth the time. If we end up with a double-digit battle for it, it might not be worth trying, especially without a ribbon. I do not believe either of our runners have picked up a ribbon.
And also, Jackmus is now going to do the wealth check, which he skipped earlier, and now we've seen what's behind it is an economizer. So we're probably going to get a doubler. I think that was that Shadow, or was that a different sprite that I saw?
I unfortunately was looking over at Locke, so we'll see after this check whether it was a character. But over on the left side, Locke is back at the Coliseum. He has found Valiant Knives against Grease Monkeys, which is a very good and quick trade. If he ends up good on Leet River and finding Locke, he will have quite an endgame defensive build.
Yeah, Jacquemus takes Rexall down pretty quickly, especially with those bum rushes.
Bum Rush being a little bit risky with Rexall, not due to health reasons, but due to time, that if they decide to hit the Soul Saver's death and reappearance animation is quite long and could potentially lose you a bit of time in the speed.
And unfortunately, we have our third dead check of the race. It was a force shield behind Welk, and he also opted not to get the economizer.
Yeah, the economizer, I think, really does not fit well with Worlds Collide. It's something that sounds great on paper, but in practice typically isn't used as much. But as chat pointed out, it is worth a fair bit of money, so that could have potentially be something to sell.
Yeah, it's definitely worth the cash, but also, especially in the early game, it's much more useful when you don't have as much MP. If you can get some early spells on the tier 3, it can be useful in the early game.
It also can be useful in the end game too, because sometimes MP conservation is important with the final Kafka fight. If you don't have Osmos or a decent supply of ethers and you're depending heavily on magic, you might find yourself low in MP comes used.
Alright, our next Terra check is going to be Zozo.
Meanwhile, Locke is going to be checking Triangle Island with Go-Go with the Zone Eater, so quite a divergence here.
So we thought it was going to be a similar start, but it's actually, we've been pretty diverse so far.
Definitely makes this very exciting because it is any racer's game at this point. Both have a lot of different options available to them with very strong starts. Jack unfortunately runs into the Piranhas and Rasmus fight, which is a early game boss that is it's not very difficult, but it takes a long time. I believe it's between 15 or 10 and 90 seconds it could take before the boss decides to show up.
Alright, who ordered the fish special for dinner here?
Be able to feed the entire airship with all the fish he's catching here. Locke has no problem though with the very trolly men on the bridge. They can sometimes stump runners, especially me, and make this check very annoying if they decide to kick you off and be mean.
Yeah, I've been known to wait a couple of minutes on that one. He does the safety save because RNG will be RNG sometimes in this room.
That's right. Sometimes you might get caught by the ceiling if some of the items you pick up's text is too long. The text box will linger on the screen a little bit longer, and that could potentially result in a ceiling coming down on your head.
Alright, and that's an easy win against the Rhizopus. Locke is going to check the bonus chest here, which is just a Phoenix down, unfortunately.
Locke grabs both our runners get Espers here. I don't think we've seen what magic we have available yet.
Okay, so
it does not look like anything too crazy.
Well, we got Ifrit on Locke's side and Torado on Jack's side.
And it looks like Terra knows Warp, which definitely is a huge boon because I do not believe we've seen many Warp Stones yet.
I think Locke found one while he was raiding South Figaro, but other than that, I haven't seen any others.
It looks like Locke is now actually electing to do the Leap River, which will make him very happy when he finds everyone's favorite treasure hunter at the end there, since he has a full set of knives for him to use. Oh, no, he is actually electing to check Zozo instead.
And Jack is in the South Figaro Cave, and it's time for some slapstick comedy with the Dream Stooges.
This is definitely a boss that can be rough early on. You want to attack the top one first because he can revive the other two. and he gets lucky with a go-go bum rush to be able to target him.
Why, certainly.
They are just as annoying as their real-life counterparts. Especially given their wide range of elemental weaknesses, depending on your magic setup, it could be difficult to quickly kill them and do some damage, but Bum Rush is making short work of them, like most of us.
And sometimes, if Larry is by himself, he'll actually just run away and just make it a quicker fight.
Oh, I've never actually seen that.
But Larry doesn't get to run today.
Meanwhile, Locke will be picking up Ifrit in a second after he waits through his multiple-minute fishing trip. And Jack picks up another Esper, putting him at a 3 count.
All right, Tara, take your dad.
And that's a move you don't see often. Warping out of South Figaro Cave saves a few seconds over walking out that exit that's right there. And it looks like Jack is heading back to World of Ruined Narsh. I think we are going to see what non-character is behind that Yumaro check, and maybe our first crack at one of our dragons.
Also, just a reminder, even though the bosses and enemies are scaled in this randomizer, the dragons are not. So if he does go for the dragon, he's going to have a bit of a challenge, but let's see what happens.
And with this flag set, our runners are required to take out 4 dragons. 4 dragons are available regardless of characters, and the other ones are locked behind certain characters. So it can be a little bit hard maybe to route those in, especially when doing a check like this early.
And he's going to give it a shot.
Like Jack. Ooh, Storm Dragon is not one you like to see here, though.
Yeah, he is weak to lightning, but unfortunately he's got very high speed, so he's definitely a challenge.
If you're Jack, you're hoping you can get your bum rushes off before something like Rage comes out. But these dragons, if Jack can take it down, is a huge boost in both XP and MP and items. And even though scaling is set to party highest, the MP and the item dropped, and I believe Storm Dragon drops a Force Shield in battle itself. Definitely could be a huge boon for Jack's route.
Well, the Bum Rush actually did more damage than the Pearl Rod.
It is great seeing all the Bum Rush, and that is something you typically do not get to see a lot in races. So this definitely makes this seed a lot more fun and interesting than other ones that some of us have played recently.
Locke apparently is offering hunting, finds the presenter, and looks like he's going to nope out of that one.
That's right. All of the monster in boxes in this game are also randomized between themselves, and so most of the monster in the boxes are not really that exciting, with a few exceptions. One of them being Katana Soul, which will be guaranteed to drop an offer. And with those Valiant Knives that he picks up, that would be a very big, quick endgame build if he manages to find Katana Soul treasure boxes.
Yeah, the presenter, which is normally in the Daryl's tomb, just drops a Dragon Claw, which is actually Sabin's second strongest weapon, vanilla. But other than that, not really much to write home about.
No, and there's a few others, such as the Plural Pugs with their Minerva drops. Also being quite good. Meanwhile, on the right, Jack manages to take out the Storm Dragon, despite the bruising the dragon gave him, and definitely probably feels a lot better about coming up to this check now.
Yeah, definitely took a beating on that one, but the rewards are definitely going to be worth it. Oh, speak of the devil, we were just talking about the offering. Nice one right there. Nice pickup.
Have between each other all the pieces for the Octo Valiant Knife endgame build that can easily cleave through Final Kefka. But together, together they have it. Separately, they are each missing a piece, so I wonder if we'll see Jack head to the Coliseum, or if Locke will pick that up off the Storm Dragon later.
And they've already found the Genji glove, so it's going to be exciting what happens here. Ooh, and looks like Locke has noped out of the Rexall battle at Welk.
And he does not know it's a dead check, so that is not really going to hurt him as much if he elects to leave here, but that is the risk that we mentioned earlier with the Soul Savers, the Bum Rush. It decides to not be nice, it could potentially waste a lot of time not hitting the main target.
Okay, we've got the hardest boss in the game at the Tritalk check. This boss is so hard they had to have a briefing about it before they fought it. It's Welk.
The Imperial's intel is obviously very good because they knew exactly how to handle this snail. Don't know if they'll be able to take it out without their military recon.
Unfortunately, those bum rushes are not hitting the right spot, as that's the third time he's hit the shell. So whatever you do, don't attack the shell.
Fortunately, it being one of the early bosses in Worlds Collide, the shell is typically not very scary, but it is really annoying when your bum rushes just refuse to hit the head.
God, 0-4, that's like flipping tails 4 times.
Locke is now finally doing the Leaf River, which is he's going to be very happy at the end of it, be able to find a user for those elements. While we have a minute as these fights are wrapping up, we would like to, plug our Discord. The Worlds Collide community is quite a active and passionate community, and we constantly do tournaments like these, weekly races, weekly seeds, pickup races. There's a lot of activity and a lot of different fun stuff to do. So if this game interests you, check us out at ff6wc.com and join our Discord from there.
Yeah, whether you're seeing us on Twitch for the first time or you're checking us out on YouTube on a later stream, that's actually how I discovered the community. Was on a YouTube recommendation, believe it or not.
Same here. A very popular YouTube streamer picked this up about 2 months ago, and that's how I ended up finding about it. We'll all have to start somewhere.
Meanwhile, what is going on Jack's side? I've now seen, this is now the 11th bum rush I've seen on the shell. I'm not sure what he's going for here.
I don't know if he has a choice in this, honestly. This might be Mog and Gogo's choice and not Jack's. Oof, yet another bum rush to the shell.
That's 12.
The shell is killable, something you do not see a lot. We're not going to see it today, but with all the bum rushes hitting it, could have been a possibility.
Probably, I guess, depending on the level. Luckily, he does, Terra's offering does take him down, and let's see what we're going to get. It's another Esper. That is Carbuncle.
And looks like we have an Ice 2 source. Can be useful with certain bosses, but at this point Jack has put a lot of better offensive options than that. Given the item pickup they've had so far, I wonder how much magic we will actually see from our two runners this race.
Jack decides not to check the monster in a box there. Well, since he's already got his offering, I don't blame him.
There's not much of a need for it at this point. And the answer to chat, yes, it was number 24 at the end of the river.
And oh, there's the Minerva right there. A dead check, but Minerva is a good weapon, or good armor, as we spoke about earlier.
Yes, and depending on the boss fight here, it might not be that bad of a time loss to pick up such a strong armor. And it looks like we have Inferno, one of the later bosses in the game.
This could be difficult. Let's see what the RNG gives us today.
Right, Inferno can be a little bit nasty with some of his attacks, and with the bum rushes, he does have 3 parts to him, and between that and the offerings, we'll see if his characters would like to actually hit the main body or not.
I believe the main body is weak to lightning. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. And Terra does have bolt 3, so that could be a help.
I believe it's actually ice, but let me double check that.
And Locke has found
Correct,
himself.
it is. And with on Locke's screen, you did see number 24 muddled him, which is a risk you run with some of your later progression against that boss in particular. While an easy boss, sometimes he can sneak up on you if he muddles you at the wrong time.
And of course, Locke has now done how you get rid of most soap opera characters. He has found himself.
A little bit of a vision quest from Locke.
Meanwhile, he also picks up his Starlet. Let's see if he decides to go for the Curse Shield.
Jack ends up getting his Minerva and warping out. Ships passing the night between these two runners.
And we have... Oh, the Flame Eater is the Doomgaze check. So we got a free battle. Looks like a free battle here, maybe.
That's right, and that Ice 2 they picked up earlier, this is one of the bosses I mentioned they could be very useful against, especially with killing the bomblets. We can now let Bomb Rush easily tear through.
Time for some 60s pop with Flame Eater and the balloons.
Locke picks up the Cursed Shield. Unfortunately, I did not see what the count on that was. It looks like it was 9 according to the tracker, which is not that bad, but at 40 minutes, that might be a little harder to pull off 9.
It just kind of depends where you go. And if he had taken that before Leet River, that might have been an option.
And the answer to chat, Jack got the dragon on the ice dragon spot when he went up for the check. And it looks like the Doomgaze check was unfortunately a dead check and another economizer. Looks like this seed really wants cheap NP. It looks like Jack might be trying to shoot for his second dragon by going to Phoenix Cave. Phoenix Cave being a good free check. The dragon here is the only boss, and it is optional. And there is some good treasure here, though at 41 minutes, treasure might not be a big factor. But it does take a little bit of time with some party switching and kind of going through the puzzles. But given the 4 dragon requirements, it's a pretty strong route to kind of throw in there. While on the left side, we have our Stooges again, which we'll see how Locke deals with her slapstick antics.
Apologies for that. We had a spam call on my end here, but I just checked my notes that Doomgaze check was the 5th dead check we have seen so far tonight.
That's right, and luckily that most of them have been rather quick dead checks, but that must be frustrating our runners a little bit as we're just trying to knock out the last few requirements they need to head onto the tower.
Right now, 42 minutes in. Looks like Jack has a slight advantage. He's got his first dragon, and he's up on the Esper count. But you know what? We still got a lot of race to go.
That is right, and the advantage that Locke has is his Valiant Knives for, well, Locke. That might be the edge to have him regain some ground later. Because offense speed is going to be very important near the end of the run, especially once we get to the boss gauntlet.
And if he can find either the Skull Dragon or an Esper that's got a high HP increase, then he's really going to be in the driver's seat there with Locke.
And we're going to see Jack take his second dragon. Routing in dragons, as we mentioned before, is one of the trickier things to do with these flag sets, because 4 dragons is a lot. And with 2 in Kefka's tower, those could potentially be risky with not as, full of a party, even though they are literally on the way. And so both our routers have to make decisions of when and where to pick their battles with these very powerful dragons.
And we've got the White Dragon in the Phoenix Cave. And has anyone found Mute? That would be very helpful. I haven't seen it yet, though, unfortunately.
And I think that Jack was also looking around for it. The White Dragon, he leads with 1 to 3 pearls, I believe. And then after that, it can be a little bit more tame, mostly countering with the spell with some pearls every once in a while. But the initial intro to the fight can be rather rough to recover from.
And we just saw that the Moblitz check is Strago, so it looks like Locke will be getting his 6th character, and he'll be ready to go if he decides to go for it. Looks like he's prepping.
And the Punaba check is definitely a little bit of a scary one. He will be fighting the boss here with only 2 characters plus a level 3 Strago, which essentially doesn't count, but he could be an item mule for a bit. So his party's pretty well balanced, though, so I think he should have no trouble, boss dependent, of course.
Well, actually, in this one, the starting level, I believe, is average party level, so at least he'll be a little bit stronger.
Yes, but I believe, though we'll see in a second, I think in the actual fight itself, he comes in at level 3. It's only afterwards as he gets set to the right level.
Okay.
I might be incorrect with that, but that is what happened on a Seed of Mine earlier today, actually.
Jack picks up Pearl Lance and a Flame Shield on the White Dragon fight.
Solid items, though, with our natural jumper, I don't know if he ends up getting Valiant Knives, he might not use that Pearl Lance, but until then, definitely a good pickup for our jumper.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Locke ran into Magi Master. Definitely someone you don't want to see when you're down to only 2 party members. He is one of the tougher boss fights in the game, but luckily with Bum Rush, it's a lot more tolerable here.
Jack has picked up Zone Seek in the Phoenix Cave, so that is, I believe that's number 5 or number 6 for him?
I think it's number 6. I thought he was 1 Esper ahead, but the tracker's not updating, so I guess it's 5. Locke having some difficulties with Magic Master, and unfortunately takes a wipe there.
Ouch.
Magic Master can be rather difficult due to his high regular defense and his ability to switch weaknesses and immunities on top of his defense. The Bum Rushes, though, will help get around his defense, so it's just a matter of outdamaging his very powerful magic.
Meanwhile, Jack is about to get the bad news of Magic Master here.
That is correct. And it'll be curious, we're a little more synced up, though Locke is electing to not do the rematch against the Magic Master. It'll be curious if Jack will end up overcoming that boss.
Yeah, there was definitely some good loot in there. There was a Genji shield and an experience egg in the checks there.
And and that's great, especially if they decide to do the auction house later. The Genji shield definitely sells for a lot, and the experience egg, well, a little bit later to see, there might be some use, especially with some of these Valiant knives, HP plus Esper, but a experience egg might be able to work out a few thousand more damage at the end of the game.
Meanwhile, Locke is heading to the Phoenix Cave. He'll get his Zone Seek, and we'll see if he decides to take on the White Dragon as well.
Yeah, I don't foresee the White Dragon being much of a problem for Locke, and that will definitely put him a bit closer towards his progression. Meanwhile, Jack has his two Bum Rush users survive the Penumba's very nasty sneeze, and we'll see how that manages to work with our everyone's least favorite mage here.
I wonder how many words that we can't say on the stream were just said on Jack's side this time.
Maybe not as many as you would think. The two Bum Rushes really will carve through him very quickly. Like I said, it's going to be a DPS race here, most likely, but hopefully Jack will be able to persevere.
Uh,
Meanwhile, Strago is resting up for his checks later, and he decided that the Magic Master is the perfectly best time to get a little.
I think he just had his 4 o'clock dinner, so.
I mean, it is probably past his bedtime. He has to get up early, make sure. Oh, and Jack manages to overcome Mr. MM there.
Wow,
and,
good job there. And his free Mega Elixir.
Everyone,
Strago.
Everyone's favorite set of checks, Strago. Which it looks like Jack is going to start cashing in immediately by checking out Ebbett's Rock. Would you like to explain to the audience why Strago maybe is not the most beloved character in Worlds Collide?
Pretty much his checks tend to be very tedious. Now, even though Ebbett's Rock only has one boss, RNG will be RNG. As you can tell, the places where these switches take you are very random. And in order to reach the boss, you must feed the treasure chest 22 pieces of coral. Doing my math right now, he's at 9. Anything less, and you have to start completely over at 0, which is really tedious right there.
Yes, and this is surprisingly one of the more appealing of his 3 checks. The others are Burning House, which is rather long with a lot of hard to avoid battles, and Fanatics Tower, which its difficulty can depend on your magic build outputs.
Okay, he's reached his 22 pieces. He's actually at 26 now. So once unfortunately, when you're trying to find the coral, the chest will show up about 5 or 6 times, and then when you finally have the coral, it won't take you there. Okay, we finally get the chest now.
I'm convinced the game knows exactly how much coral you have and knows exactly when to not show you the exit. Jack runs into Atma, one of the later bosses, has some wide range of powerful magic, and we'll see if he ends up if he decides to play nice with Jack.
Yeah, this is our toilet Atma, as it's been referred to in the community, because you kind of find him on the toilet in Kefka's Tower.
Right, one of the most powerful enemies in the game, and he is just, not really in your way, just minding his own business. Meanwhile, Locke is doing some shopping. Leaving Phoenix Cave, he is right near Shazan, and he decides to take the opportunity to check out shops and fill up on some items and get some gil. And it looks like Locke is maybe heading for the Tritok Yumaro check to put him on a path with the offering. Something that he will most likely be very happy about once he finds it.
Well, Atma goes down with little fanfare.
Alright, and we'll see what Strago yields. It looks like we have a character.
Hey, I'll always take a free character.
Himself.
It's Edgar, alright. And that'll warrant a free check.
Especially a character that will route to a dragon, which means maybe one less dragon to attempt with a not full party in Kefka's Tower. So that gives Jack a lot of options for his final few checks.
Might as well raid Tommaso while he's here. The question is, will he go into the burning house while he's here?
If I were him, I would skip out for Edgar's checks, but we'll see. He is here, but the Flaming House can be very long even at these heights. So it's very
Yeah, and if it turns out to be a dead check, you've got a busted controller, probably.
Meanwhile, Locke looks like he's skipping the Ice Dragon / Storm Dragon check at the moment. We'll see if he doubles back after this Locke fight.
Let's see how many bum rushes he gets on the show.
I think luckily by taking it a little bit later, he has a few more offensive options that maybe can aim a little bit better than bum rush can. So this fight might take him a slightly less time than it took Jack. Sure enough, Jack is heading towards Egder's checks. Egder has 3, but the Ancient Castle check is tied behind the Figaro Basement check, which is where he's heading right now. The nice thing about Egder is that it is only one boss and for 3 checks, and they're all very close together. And also has a dragon routed in, which will be very, very beneficial for this route.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have their opinions on the Ancient Castle, but I kind of like it. Even as a kid, I always loved doing it.
I find it to be very fast. I personally like Egder's checks because it can really swing the last little bit of your route. If he picks up 3 Espers in a row here, all he needs is to go by an auction house to finish off his route. So this can be very beneficial. The walk back from the castle is not the funnest, though. It's easily the worst part of the check.
Let's see what our boss is going to be in the Dima Pasta spot.
And it looks like Locke is now going back for the Sword Dragon. And Jack has encountered the Chatterrock.
But is it a hanging Chad?
It looks like it's a floating Chad, to be perfectly honest with you. Chatterrock switches between her female form and her demon form. The female form cannot be killed, only the demon form can. In fact, hitting the female form risks some pretty nasty counterattacks sometimes.
And Locke chose to nope out, unfortunately, of the Storm Dragon. Unfortunately, he only had 3 still alive. Go-Go was not alive, so that might have been an issue with that fight.
Yes, we'll see. We'll see how Locke handles the news later about the offering being on that Storm Dragon. But Storm Dragon is a rather tough fight, and it might have been a wise decision without knowing what item is behind it to know about. It is one of the more nasty of the dragons.
It's going after some vanilla pugs in Mara's cave.
Hopefully pick up a Minerva or 2. Meanwhile, Jack is still attacking Chatterock. In Worlds Collide, we have a flag that is typically on to make it so that Chatterock stays in his demon form a lot longer. Like we said, the lady form can... the lady form cannot be killed. Yeah, sorry, the lady form cannot be killed, so in vanilla it can be a very annoying fight because it does not stick in the demon form for very long. And we try to speed it up here. There's a few quality of life flags that we have for Worlds Collide that are set.
We had a little bit of good news on Locke's side. He did manage to steal a Minerva, so he's guaranteed at least 1 in this fight.
We'll see if he picks up a second. Picked up 2 more.
Hello, nurse.
Everyone's going to be fashionable. Let's see who can equip them, or maybe we'll see later. Looks like he only equipped 1 on Tara. At the very least, that is a hefty amount of money that he might be able to have later.
And Shadarna goes down.
A little bit longer of a boss fight. Sometimes you don't like to see the demon later. Just can be a little bit of a time waster, but Jack does pick up another Magicite, putting him at I believe 6 now.
Is that Kieran I saw?
It was.
Now we'll see.
Locke.
Oh, he's going after his Inferno now. Meanwhile, we'll see who's on the throne.
That's right. This is a free check. It's kind of nice to get around in a few chests and a few discounted shops. That went really quick. It looked like it was Gal, maybe?
Yeah, it was Gal. Yep, so another extra character. You know what? Again, those extra characters could be the make or break when you're going through Kefka's Tower. So, no complaints from me. Jack
is electing to not go to the Ancient Castle, which I think is a very good call here. The Ancient Castle, while it has some good equipment or potential equipment and has a free check and a dragon, it is a little bit long getting in and out. And with 2 dragons in the Opera House, Jack probably decided it was not maybe worth his time to try to go in and out of it.
So it looks like he's heading into Jidor. He might be seeing how many Espers are in the Opera House. Because, yeah, if there's 2 in there, then he's just 1 away. And he can easily find another one somewhere. And then he's pretty much in go mode.
It's true, though, of course, the Auction House is the Auction House. It is known for being very trolly. If you're any runner who's not Selfer, you might, if there are 2, he could potentially be here for a little bit. But he does find his first one on the first go, which he has to be very happy about.
I think on Thursday Doesn't actually went in twice and got 2 Espers in there, just boom, boom.
It's, when it works out for you, you feel like a champ, and when it doesn't, sometimes you're cursing for 5 minutes as you wait for the second or even the first Esper to show up.
We got some more jump stats there for Palador.
And meanwhile, Locke is going to attempt the Magic Master a second time to try to grab our old man. Hopefully he will have better luck the second time.
Has he found an Esper that shows Berserk yet, or is he just gonna try to do some bum rush stats?
I assume it's the latter, though. He made an interesting decision of only coming with 2 party members, which I believe means Baba Breath will not blow them away, since Baba Breath brings you down to 2. So that will give him control over what 2 characters he gets to have for the match. Which is definitely a smart play. That is the hardest part about this check, and walking in with a Bum Rusher and a Valiant Knife, dual-wielding Locke. Oh, I am incorrect. That is, Baba Breath still blows him away, even though he was already down to 2.
Yeah, so I guess maybe he needs to bring 3 in and just hope that the right one goes away.
Yeah, so I'm curious to ask him about that afterwards. Was not what I was expecting, but I will admit that the Penumbra is probably the check I have done the least in this game.
Gonna run out of paper with all these notes here.
I know.
And Jack is...
Meanwhile...
Oh, go ahead.
No, you were about to say what I was going to say.
Probably that Jack is going on the belt. Oh, and looks like it's going to be take 3 for Locke for the Magi Master.
Coming in a little more prepared. Meanwhile, Jack must have picked up dried meat somewhere. I missed that in whatever shop. But this check, well, technically a check, you have to keep fighting on the blitz, or sorry, on the belt. There's a 3/8 chance that a character appears, and then you use a dry meat on him, and you get whatever rewards for this check. Unfortunately, it means sometimes it can be locked behind dry meat, which is, I believe, only available in 4 shops, randomized, of course.
Yeah, we have 4 shops, and that includes everything. That can also include the Phantom Train, that can include the airship, that can include Gal's Manor. But also, if you manage to battle Ultros Fight 4, I believe it is, you can steal a dried meat from him in that fight.
Yeah, that came up on Discord today. You also, if you have the Ragnarok Esper, you can use it on Logo, I believe, right, in order to transform it into a dried meat as well.
Right, and I believe, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, I believe Red Wolves also could drop them.
I believe so as well. Lobo being the more famous one because you can find a Lobo in a chest, but also if you come to the Velt without having done a random encounter yet, Lobo will be the only thing on there. So if you get an early Ragnarok Esper, you can almost guarantee you have a dried meat in the place you need a dried meat.
And if you've already got Locke and you've gotten your Cursed Shield, there you are. Oh, and he just took a nope out of there, seeing that White Dragon.
Yes, White Dragon being one of the few bosses that can show up on the belt. Typically, it's just normal enemies, but White Dragon is the only dragon, and I believe one of the few bosses that can show up on here, besides Senor Behemoth. On our left side, Locke is attempting the Magic Master again, this time having no problem with that. Between Bum Rushing Mog and Knife-wielding Locke, he's able to take down everyone's least favorite wizard,
Yes.
and finally getting his old man. And Drew pointed out in chat that one important property of the belt is even though you get magic points and drops and gold, you do not get experience, which can be a little frustrating when you spend a few minutes there, especially early game, because you might not get a lot of benefit outside of a time loss trying to look for your character.
Essentially, kind of depends on the flags in that, because sometimes you may not want those levels early, and you might have Espers that don't have bonuses on levels up, so that'd be a good time to get those spells.
That's true. It can be a good time, though, if you've picked up a few Espers and haven't had a chance to learn some of the magic behind it. The belt lets you double dip a little bit there. Of unfortunately, Jack is not having the best of luck finding his Wild Child stand-in and runs into that White Dragon again.
There seems to be some kind of a pattern, so that white dragon will show up a few times.
The Velt, I believe, has a pretty regular pattern to it. You can look it up on GameFAQs. With some slight deviation, there are multiple slots, and each slot has, some of them only have one possible enemy, some slots have 2 or 3 possible formations, and it cycles between them in order. Which means if something shares the slot with the White Dragon, and you're looking for the White Dragon, and vanilla, and you miss in that slot, you have to cycle through all the other encounters you had before getting back to it. So unfortunately, it means that this is somewhat predetermined, depending on what other enemies are in the White Dragon slot, or if you keep resetting and find his character check before he blends in. And it seems like Jack is aware of that and is resetting, potentially doing a battle and resetting, hoping he can just find his character on the first battle, the one that he knows will take the least amount of time.
Did anyone actually see him find the dried meat?
I did not actually. I'm checking our tracker now, but I don't see any notes about dried meat in there. I hope with all the time he has spent on here that is something he picked up somewhere. Meanwhile, Locke has run into Toilet Dragon Atma. Locke is deciding to run only 3 characters at the moment. With split XP turned off, this could be a good way to build a little bit stronger of a core 3 for your parties, especially if he feels like he does not have a strong 4th character.
Yeah, usually we say Kefka's Tower is the great equalizer, but it looks like the Velt might be the equalizer right now.
Yes, and this might be the thing that causes this race to maybe come down to the wire a little bit. Locke was behind by a few checks, and the Velt might be the thing that causes Locke to regain a little bit of ground against Jack here.
Yeah, as of right now, he's got about a 2-check lead right now, not including those extra characters, or 3-check lead. My fault.
That is correct, but he does need 2 espers, and does not have a lot of checks left. And I believe the auction house does not have a second esper, which is why Jack decided to go out of there. So he doesn't know where his last esper may be. So that is probably why he's grinding away at this check.
Meanwhile, Locke just picked up his king, and we'll see what direction he goes in. Wonder if he'll maybe try to get some cheap shopping while he's out and about.
If I were these runners, I would feel like my equipment was pretty well off, especially given our tier shop setup. These shops are just not going to offer as much as they normally would. And so outside maybe stocking up on sleeping bags, I don't know if we'll see a lot more shopping outside of maybe hitting up Jador. Locke ends up going for the auction house there.
For those of you who are new, Edgar is a bit of a thrifty shopper. If he is in the head of your party, you get half off in the Figaro Castle shops and the World of Ruin South Figaro shops.
Which makes them very fun to get early on, especially if the shops on a normal race you'd have something like rods. You can really buy them in mass very cheaply with King Edgar.
Or in the rare case, you might be able to get a tier 3 item as well.
Meanwhile, Locke will be running through the basement and then the Figaro throne check. It'll be interesting to see if he goes for Ancient Castle. With the Velwalk that Jack is getting, I think going Ancient Castle and picking up a Dragon and potentially an Esper or another character there might put him on a different route that will cause him to regain some ground.
Actually, I didn't notice it the first time, but there was a fixed dice and a red jacket in the treasury in the castle. So a couple of very good items in there. Of course, fixed dice, we've seen what it can do. Red jacket is also, I believe it absorbs fire as well. Yeah, the chat is saying, just kill the dragon. Unfortunately, Jack has taken another nope out of there. At this point, do you continue to struggle to get this check? Or looks like he's just finally decided he's just going to try the Serpent Trench. Pretty much the Serpent Trench check, you get. So you've got an option. You can either take the left path or the right path. If you take the left path, you will get 5 random encounters. You take the right path, you get 3 random encounters and 2 chests. But it can also take a little time. It just kind of depends on what your preference is. Me, usually, I tend to go to the right.
I typically go to the left unless it's early on, but the time difference really is kind of a crapshoot, right? Because the 2 more extra encounters, especially against a Brontar or Evil Oscar, might take quite a bit of time. But if you're running into 4 Leafers, it's going to be a lot quicker to do the 2 extra battles.
And of course, we have those seeds where bosses sometimes get mixed in with the random encounters, and you'll probably see Doom or Fried Chicken down here.
Oh, it's almost guaranteed you come down here, you're going to see something nasty. Even if it's 20%, that is just how the randomizer is going to rando. And it looks like Locke will be checking Ancient Castle. So we'll see what our check down here is, and see if Locke will pick up his first dragon. And the answer to chat, no, sorry for the confusion. 20% fixed encounter bosses are not bad. They were on for, I believe, 1 round in the Coliseum 2 rounds ago. We just brought it up because that was something that was fun and interesting to see, and occasionally can be a risk depending on some of the more challenging flag sets we run.
Yeah, and again, rando will always rando. It's like one of the other games I play Looney Tunes World of Mayhem. There's a thing, if your opponent has a 10% chance of counterattacking, they will counterattack you every time.
It's there's a saying on the World's Collide Discord that every chest you don't check is an Illumina, because that is how rando goes. Everything good that can happen is not going to happen to you, and everything bad is obviously going to happen. So therefore, you always have to prepare for the worst.
And unfortunately, in Locke's case, it was a missed offering by not getting that Storm Dragon.
Meanwhile, Jack runs into some undead enemies, something that he pulled a trick that you sometimes see in early fights, but it is always useful, that Phoenix Downs and Revifies can very quickly kill these enemies because they are one-hit kills. So those 2 skeleton dragons were able to go down very quickly in order to save them a little bit of time.
I need to refresh my stream, so I'm gonna sit back for a few seconds.
Sure. And I'll take this opportunity to kind of recap this tournament for those who maybe joined us late. This is the Coliseum tournament, returners round 9. Round 8. Between Jack and Locke, we are down to our last 4, and the winner of this will face Javinator next round for the last returners round. The winner of that will face Doesn't in the finals. Meanwhile, Jack picks up a Sabin at the end of his Elite River. Definitely a character you like to see late, though it might be a little too late. Seeing him a little bit earlier sometimes is nice. Sabin has 5 checks, most of which are pretty quick, and that might be enough to get him his last few Magicite to head off to the tower. Meanwhile, Locke is fighting the Gold Dragon. Luckily, one of the more tame dragons, so definitely one you like to see. His attacks are typically not very scary, and he should be able to slice through them fairly easily. Getting his first dragon knocked out. While Jack is headed to the Opera House. Wonder Ruin Opera House, the only reason to come here is... Oh, I'm sorry, no, I saw the wrong sprite. He is at the Coliseum. And he sees the same ballot knife checks that Locke did, which has to make him very happy, because now he knows he can probably very easily cut through the final boss, and definitely gives him the last little bit of offense that Locke finishes up his dragon and starts heading out. Be interesting to see where he goes next. Finding Gal, the belt is definitely on the table. He picked up dried meat. Hopefully he has better luck than Jack did. But it looks like he might be potentially on a similar path that Jack is at. Meanwhile, Jack is picking up a second ballot knife. For those who are a little bit newer to Worlds Collide, ballot knives are definitely something you love to see late. Locke is the only one who can equip them in vanilla, so they can be a little limiting sometimes, depending on who else the rando lets equip them. But they do more damage the lower on HP you are, the bigger difference between your max HP and your current HP. And so by getting in higher and higher HP, and then making sure you stay near death, you can do a lot of damage in the upper thousands, 5, 6, 7, 8,000. And more importantly, unlike other weapons, since it uses a special damage formula, its power is not cut in half by the offering. So having 2 Valiant Knives with the Genji Glove and offering means attacking 8 times with no power loss that you can get with the offering, which, with the right setup, can potentially 1 or 2 shot Final Kefka and make mincemeat of pretty much every boss in the game. The downside being it is harder to maintain, since you have a character that is near death. You have to be very protective of them. But it is considered a very strong late game.
Still trying to get Oh no, I was just saying I'm still trying to get my stream on there. It looks like we did get a Bahamut Esper in the Ancient Castle.
Yep. Putting Locke at 8 Espers, so he'll be picking up his last one in the auction house, hopefully in a minute, which will only put him a dragon away from hitting the Kefka's tower if he wants to take his other 2 dragon checks in there, assuming he gets decent auction house luck. Meanwhile, Jack is doing the Collapsing House check, one of Sabin's free checks. Potentially very nice because it's right near Kefka's, and it's either going to be a Magicite or a item, and it's a rather quick check. Also full of plenty of treasures, and if you're offering hunting, a potential Katana Soul check as well.
Okay. Trying to see how far behind my stream is. I see Jacquemus just entering the collapsing house. So, like, how far behind am I?
He just left to Zen, so you are full collapsing house behind.
Okay, I may have to reset again then. What was the Zen pickup?
It was another Esper. I did not see which one though. But that puts Jack one Esper away from being in go mode. Meanwhile, Locke picks up his 9th Esper, putting him outside of dragons, ready for Kefka's. There being 2 dragons in Kefka's tower. Locke needs to go and kill one more right now, and then he is ready to head into the final dungeon. And he is heading right to the Opera House right now. A quick stone hop away from Jador, and he should be able to clean up this dragon and then potentially head right in. On our right side, Jack has decided to jump down Barren Falls, and he runs into everyone's favorite boy band, Haydn and the Haydn Knights.
With
hopefully should be a rather quick fight.
But are they going to play their number 1 smash, Grand Train?
No, I think, well, maybe. The rest of the boy band has taken a breather, and we have our solo now. So is it our Grand Train solo? We'll see in a second. Locke is about to encounter our Opera House dragon. And hopefully it is the Ace Dragon, which you saw earlier with Jack, one of the easiest dragons, so hopefully this should not be very very hard for him to knock this guy out. Meanwhile, Haydn does get off the Grand Train. This is Haydn's most powerful attack, which does very little to Jack's high defense. But it is the strongest lore in the game. Trago's default ability, but sometimes can be useful to pick up if you happen to have lore, as it is quite a decent spell.
Okay, so I'm seeing the Ice Dragon on Locke's side, so he's about ready to go into go mode now.
Yes, he just finished it up and headed out of the Opera House, and should be heading over to the final dungeon, perhaps. Nope, he is swinging by Narsh. It looks like he might be heading back up to fight that Ice Dragon, or the Storm Dragon in the Ice Dragon spot up there, going for a rematch to get his 3rd dragon before going into the town. Jacquemus unfortunately does not get an Esper from Barren Falls, so he is heading to the Imperial camp to hope to find his last magic site here, where he runs into tonight's favorite white mage, Kefka.
Now that's a holy spell to talk about.
Jack, of course, feeling very, very intoxicated at the moment with 2 of his characters being poisoned. Definitely makes the screen jitter a bit with a very annoying blur effect. And Jack is going to find his last Esper here at the Imperial Camp. The Imperial Camp, if you are getting an item, will kick you out after the first battle, and you'll get it. If it's a character in Esper, it'll go into this cutscene that normally has Cyan and Vanilla, and then you can easily see if it's not a character sprite that you are getting a Esper. So Jack now knows that he is in go, and should be heading to the final dungeon maybe shortly. Meanwhile, Locke is going to be very happy when he finishes off this Storm Dragon in a tiny bit. That offering will put him on some bringing back offense-wise heading into the tower. And at the speed these two are going, they should be heading to the tower roughly the same time, but with Locke actually up a dragon, which will make the final stretch of this race very interesting.
Yeah, we actually did have a similar instance on Thursday for the finals in the top bracket.
That's correct. Both our runners entered the tower within, what was it? You commentated that, was it 6 seconds?
Yeah, it was a 6-second difference between the two. The only difference was that, unfortunately, Javinator was one dragon behind, and unfortunately, that's kind of what was the breaking point on that run.
That's correct, and Locke is now in go mode. He has killed his third dragon, and he is about to jump off into the tower. So it looks like a very similar setup as Jack seems to be speeding over to the Opera House to take out his third dragon. So he is about one Opera House unit of time behind Locke at the minute.
Okay, so Fenrir was the Esper in the Imperial camp, which will be very useful in the final battle.
Yes, that's something we haven't talked too much about. In Worlds Collide, Espers and Summons are typically not used as often as other Final Fantasies, but there are a few that are useful, and one of the biggest things is, since the final battle is known and you know what bosses you're running into, there are quite a few Espers that can be helpful in different points. One in particular being Tier 3, that there is an instant death attack called Calmness that is very difficult to avoid and could potentially wipe out a person or two before the last final battle. Fenrir will help our runners avoid that.
So we have, at 1:27, we have our first look into Kefka's Tower, while looks like Jack's going for his dragon now.
That's right, and Locke runs into our first boss, Senor Behemoth, the patriarch of the Behemoth family.
Okay, so I'm still about a minute behind them. I'm going to do one more refresh and see if that does it.
Sure thing. And even though Gal might not be able to contribute too much to this party for Locke, Locke Cole, the character, will make very short work of these enemies. So he put him in the party that will fight 3 bosses, and most likely his dragon, I would imagine, but we'll see how that plays out. And hopefully she'll be able to get through very quickly. Meanwhile, Jack has now dive-bombed into the tower, so he is only roughly a minute or minute and a half behind Locke currently.
Give or take, so this race is still not over.
Right, all it takes is one RNG boss or, one bad setup to really swing this around. It can be it's anyone's race at the minute.
Yeah, I remember there was one time, I think so far only once I've actually been restreamed, and it was, we all got into Kefka's Tower pretty quickly, and one of the boss fights was Doomgaze, and that was pretty much what turned a hour-and-a-half seed into pretty much an over 2-hour seed.
It is rough, and luckily Magic Master is out of the rotation, but sometimes you just get bosses that your party is not set up for, that your opponent's party is. Tricock could be one if you don't have any fire magic. Magic Master typically is another, and Doomgaze is notorious for being one as well.
Yeah. Actually, it was Doomgaze, not Magic Master, my mistake.
No worries. So now Locke and Jack are starting to hike to the puzzle. For those of you in the Discord are probably aware of this. For casual viewers, we are constantly doing active development on this randomizer, and we currently have a dev build full of a lot of exciting flags that maybe might be part of races, at some point in the future. One of which is alternate requirements to skip this beginning part of the being able to set, having to kill more dragons or gain a few extra espers or characters and skipping part of the tower, which could make races in the future very interesting with some very fun routing decisions. Meanwhile, Locke is now taking his final dragon, taking out the Skull Dragon with just Mog. Unfortunately, he gets hit with a Condemned with Strago down, so we'll see if he can out-damage or otherwise outmaneuver this Condemned.
And if he can take on that Skull Dragon, that will be a big help because he drops the Muscle Belt, which is a relic that increases your maximum HP by 50%. So you put that on your Valiant Knife user, and hello, nurse! And
that is typically a very good setup if you're missing an Offering or Genji glove. Unfortunately, with only 2 relic slots, it might not play a factor in here unless they have picked up more than 2 and have out knife on someone else. Then it very well could be a good secondary set of offense or another.
So we got some dueling Skull Dragon fights going on right now.
But unfortunately, I think Locke is going to take a fight. Bad timing with Condemn and Strago after he was healed, trying to heal. Still managed to kill himself. And that is definitely rough. And Jack manages to take out the Skull Dragon, whereas Locke is going to attempt another go at it.
Ouch. I think Ceiling Cat's post says it all, definitely. I don't think that was unintended.
I think the caps were completely justified in there. Luckily for Locke, Jack took a slightly different route, so even though they were in tandem fighting the Skull Dragon at the same time, Locke was a little bit further with progress than Jack was, and Locke is now electing to fight the other dragon he kept this time, which ends up being the Dirt Dragon.
Definitely a pick your poison type of thing here.
Except he has no problems taking him out. Using the character Locke, even though Dirt Dragon hits hard, that only makes Locke even more effective offensively. At this point, Locke the Racer wants Locke the character to do as much damage as possible in this tower. The closer he is to death, the more damage he'll do, and the faster he'll carve through the remaining bosses. That puts this race very close together at this point. Despite that wipe, it looks like Locke still has a slight lead over Jack, but it is very narrow, and it very well could come down to just good execution in the final battle. Might be the difference maker.
Yeah, the final battle, Kefka's Tower, definitely the great equalizer in many races, and the final boss is no exception to that.
It's one of the more interesting things about Worlds Collide, because the final boss is surprisingly complicated with lots of different strategies and tactics, really depending on your setup. And it is kind of the grand finale of everything this randomizer is, with a lot of on-the-fly tactics you kind of have to, keep in the back of your mind, because not every single final boss fight is completely different in Worlds Collide. It just offers that much more.
Yeah, it could be anything from getting a really nasty hit on Tier 1 to who gets calmed on Tier 3, or if everyone in Tier 2 is just being super nasty, how many people get frozen. I've seen that. I've seen 3 people get frozen on one absolute... Oh, what's that attack?
South Cross. One of the crosses, either north or south.
Oh, N cross, yeah, N cross, yeah. S cross
Yeah.
is the water one. But
Right.
yeah, I actually did see that
so
happen. Like 3 characters on one N cross got frozen, and that just really changed the pace of the battle.
I think where I've run into a Doom, he's frozen all 4, I've reset, do the battle again, only for him to freeze all 4 again. Sometimes N cross can be very mean. It looks like I was slightly incorrect with the routing. Jack is a tiny bit ahead, probably by about 1 boss fight. Both runners took a slightly different order with their parties through the tower, and made it a little bit hard for me to judge who was ahead, so my apologies. But it looks like Jack is now very slightly ahead for this final stretch.
Okay. Looks like we got number 128 in the Guardian spot. This should be a pretty straight, quick fight here.
You're actually a little bit behind. He's already past that, and he is tackling the Atma weapon now for the last boss fight on Locke, the character's path.
Oh my stream does not like me tonight for some reason.
That is rough. Oh, there's something I was gonna bring up. While we're in this final little stretch, do you want to maybe inform our viewers about maybe some of the intricacies of the final battle, some of the things that our runners have to look forward to?
Oh, what can we look forward to? Okay, so the final challenge at Kepler's Tower. So you have 4 tiers for those of you who are new to us or just kind of need a little refresher. On tier 1, you've got 3 battles. Well, you've got 3 enemies. You've got the head, the left arm, and the long arm of the law. You definitely want to get the head and the long arm eliminated first because they do have some nasty end of battle counterattacks if they are the last one standing.
It's only the first tier. Before we go back to that analysis, a quick catch up. It looks like Locke the runner had to heal Locke the character with an X potion, really hurting his offense going into these final sets. Whereas Jackamus is run into Poltergeist with only Mog, which is going to be a little bit slow of a slog to maybe overcome that.
Oh, is it time for some fried chicken?
It is. Looks like only our Moogle is going to be able to dine out tonight, though.
Okay, I'm actually on the part of the stream now where the Poltergeist is.
Great. As chat pointed out, Poltergeist can be very dangerous with a solo party, since he does know Stop and he knows Blaster being a one-hit KO. But Jack is getting a lot of good luck in avoiding those 2 attacks. Oh no, Locke does not get a Bum Rush input correct and then takes a Flare Star, wiping to Poltergeist. That is a pretty crucial Bum Rush input. That definitely is going to make this race a lot more interesting. So Yakko, we're at 140 right now. These are 2 of our top runners. Some of our seeds have been going a lot quicker than this, and both runners know they have had offense. Both have to be thinking that the other is way ahead of them. Wouldn't you agree? Seems like Yakko is maybe having some issues. Jack gets a little bit of a break, runs into Ultra Spore, which should be a rather quick fight for him. A nice reprieve after the Poltergeist kerfuffle.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So what I was saying is, whenever I'm racing, I always assume that my opponent ahead of me. I don't care where I am.
That's true, but it does mean that I'm sure both runners are very nervous at the moment. Both have had a lot of dead checks and a lot of frustrating moments so far, and little do they know, it is neck and neck, and I think both of them are going to be very entertained looking back on this and seeing how this race turned out, because it's definitely been one of the more interesting races that I've watched in this tournament.
Yeah, this has definitely been a good one. I think the only comfort would be is that even though they're having trouble, their opponent still has not done yet, so they might be going through their mind maybe they're having some issues as well.
It's true, and both runners having problems with Poltergeist. Jack has done the right path already and has killed Ultras 2 and is going back for round 2 against the Poltergeist. But the Poltergeist could be the difference maker here. How these runners handle this and move equipment around to take out probably arguably the meanest of the three statues, depending on your setup. Jack putting in everyone's favorite snowman, Yeti, Yumaro, who unfortunately does not want to contribute much to this fight. It looks like he is quite tired. And Maw gets stopped, which is probably going to be a reset from Jack, yeah. This might be a huge wall, and whatever runner happens to get by Poltergeist first, that might be the deciding point of this race. I don't know about you, but this has been an exciting race. Both runners have really gone back and forth, and it is still anyone's game right now.
Definitely, it is. It's gone back and forth most of this, especially during the Kepis Tower here. I mean, like, during the race, we've seen that Jack has definitely had the advantage, but Locke had gotten in first here, just kind of going back and forth. Who's gonna eat the chicken first is gonna be the question.
Exactly, and Locke unfortunately takes another reset to Poltergeist. Jack takes another reset to Poltergeist, making Locke, closing the gap a little bit more. Locke should be finishing up this coupon fight very quickly. One option our racers have with how difficult this has been is you can always warp out of Kepis Tower and put your entire party in one path and take on Poltergeist at full strength. It unfortunately is a huge time loss. Do you think that strategy is going through either of our runners' minds right now?
I would not put it past them. I've seen it happen before. I've done it myself. Sometimes it's kind of like, it's a case of you got to cut off a finger to save the hand. That might be what they may have to do here.
Very true, though, with the time being 1:44 and the average time these runners typically put up, like we talked about before, both of them are probably feeling the pressure and thinking they're behind, and that might cause them to try to grind away with one character that's a little bit more, because they know that might be the thing that, costs them the run, and it is a tough decision that they have to make.
This case, I don't know. Because if you cannot get past him, then you're pretty much stuck. So it's a catch-22 here. It's like you're darned if you do, darned if you don't.
Exactly. Jack electing not to heal Mog. Just pounding away at bomb rushes. It looks like it might just be a DPS fight for him, but he gets healed by that ice spell by the South Cross there, putting him back up in some good health range. With our runners attempting Poltergeist at the same time, and Jack pulls it out and manages to be the first one to get his bucket of fried chicken.
All right, we now have a break.
Chat is saying that Jack pulled off his flame shield from Terra and put it on Mog, which was a big difference maker in dealing with a few of Poltergeist's attacks.
Smart move, smart move.
One thing we didn't mention earlier is that typically our abilities for bosses are on what's called scaled element, which takes the general idea of their abilities, but changes them based off of your level. So if an enemy is supposed to do Bolt 2, but you're low level, he might do Bolt or Bolt Edge, as an example. But we're not playing on that. We're playing on original abilities, which makes the early game a lot harder, since you might run into a boss early that could have very powerful magic. But it means that you know exactly what Poltergeist can be casting, which is why Locke the Racer has elected to put a wall ring on Terra, in order to bounce off some of the spells Poltergeist might cast.
And especially that stop spell, because Poltergeist is the one statue that is vulnerable to stop, and that is really going to give him an advantage there.
Exactly. And even though Poltergeist is healed by the fire magic he throws around, it is very little. It looked like he killed for about 600, so it's definitely worth it for the defense that he's getting, especially with the stop.
Alright, and Jack is the first one to reach Kefka. I've got him clocked in at 1 hour and 46 minutes to hit the 3 switches. And here we go.
Right, and like you said, the first tier, arguably the easiest, at the very least the most straightforward. The only trick here is they want to make sure they kill the face before the other two. If the face is killed last, he will counter with Quake, which could be potentially very devastating.
This one advantage is the long arm is vulnerable to X-Zone, Doom, those type of spells, so he can try, if he has something that he can do that, he can try to get that one out pretty quickly.
It looks like he might have cast Break on it in order to kill Long Arm. Break working on Long Arm, but not working on tools in Tier 2. That instantly was on. Locke manages to also beat Poltergeist. Unfortunately, risks taking a Moogle Charm off Terra to prep for final battle, and eats a Doom from a random enemy. That is horrible, horrible luck.
Oh my god.
I don't know if he saved after Poltergeist or not. He did, luckily, so it was not as big of a time loss as it was.
Oh, good. Yeah, not a total loss, but it is going to cost him some precious seconds, especially with Jack already underway in the Kefka fight.
Jobinator commented on chat, this has been an emotional seed. I completely agree. It has been rather nerve-wracking as a commentator watching these two go back and forth and having so many close calls.
Oh my gosh. You're thinking, someone is finally going to get a break, and then boom, it goes right back.
Jack has now moved on to Tier 2. Probably, in my opinion, the most complicated of all the tiers. There being 4 targets, and each of them can be handled quite differently depending on your setup.
Yeah, you've got magic, which is the most annoying if you do not have mute, especially because there is a chance that the first thing he does is he will cast Haste 2 on everybody, and that will really make this a more difficult fight for you.
Which it looks like he did, at least on Tiger from what I saw. And of course, Tiger can cause Zombie, a status that is slow to heal and can potentially mess up things.
Yeah, the only counter with Tiger is that it actually is immune to poison, so if you'd rather go for hit first, you can kind of, get some poison on him, bring that down. Because you don't want to save hit for last, because he will counter on death with the 10 hits.
Yes, a very powerful physical attack, and I have seen it wipe multiple party members of me before. It can be, which it looks like it's triggered on Jack right now. As long as it's not his last, the last party he killed, he should be good. But that is a risk with running an offering build. You can't aim, and sometimes it means you don't get a choice of who you kill last.
Well, they do have a lot of hit points to start with, so at least in the early rounds, you could probably get something good going on there just to kind of bring them down, and then maybe get them down quickly as you're finishing up.
Very true. As we just saw with Locke, he actually took the Quake that Face, counters with on death perfectly fine and managed to survive very easily from it, which definitely made his offense a little more simple. So he moves on to Tier 2 at the exact same time Jack moves on to Tier 3.
I'm still having a little bit of stream trouble. I did see that Locke has finished Tier 1, but Jack's stream is kind of frozen for me right now.
Yes, Jack managed to use Life 3 to protect Locke, which puts him back onto pretty low levels HP-wise, which is exactly where he wants to be with everyone's favorite treasure hunter.
Especially with Locke, he should have no problem with magic. On Tier 3, Girl, even though is immune to every elemental spell, only has 99 HP. So just 2 or 3 hits from Locke, and that will take her out.
Yes, and you have to take her out first, or else she will revive Rest. So you have to kill her first. Meanwhile, Jack already finished with Tier 3. He used Fenrir early to make sure he had protection from calmness. Fenrir giving everyone the image status, which will block physical attacks, of which calmness is. And using Locke, he was very easily able to carve through and deal with that counter very easily.
Right, you definitely want to get out of this one pretty quickly, because even though calmness is not the worst thing that sleep can do to you, also has Meteo and Train. Train, of course, will pretty much mute, blind, and everything to your party. And Meteo will just do random damage and could really be nasty.
Correct. Luckily, being so physical heavy and less magic heavy, Train is not as dangerous for these two runners. But it's a lot easier if you just skip over the final phase. He only does those two when he has 10,000 or less HP. Jack is now easily taking out Kefka. All it's going to take is probably about 2 attacks with Locke to finish this off for him.
I'm seeing some GGs in the chat. Is that it?
Yep, it looks like Locke finished with a time of 1:54.56 from what I saw. Definitely sub 1:55. So he managed to easily take out Kefka at the end there to finish it off. So GG's in chat for Jack. Let me see if we can pull him in if he wants an interview.
Alright. Being behind actually does have a little advantage for me, because I can tell you he took Kefka out in 37 seconds.
That is what you like to see with Octo Valiant Knives, definitely. And I think we'll see Locke the Runner do something very similar.
Very
hear back
close
from
race
Jack.
here.
If he wants to be pulled in here.
Okay, so Jack will take on Javinator in the Returners Bracket Finals, which will probably take place sometime within the next week. And then the winner of that race is going to face Doesn't in the Coliseum Finals.
I'm trying to get in touch with our runners, hopefully get Jack in first. He might have stepped away for a second. But it looks like Locke has also finished, only about 2 minutes behind. Very, very close race.
Wow. At least maybe I can time this one as well, because I'm still behind on mine.
Let me... Just... I might not be able to bring him in. I think you have to be a mod, actually. I don't know. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can figure it out.
Maybe our restreamer might be able to help us out with that. Wow, that was good lord.
Us.
Yeah, I just like that was like a 26-second fight there.
All right, it looks like we have Jack here. Jack, good game. GG's.
Thanks. Yeah, so I lost 15 minutes on the Velt. I was not impressed.
Yeah, we were watching that. That was like, oh my god, can something happen? I know even in the chat they were saying, just kill that white dragon, reset the pattern.
Well, it's faster to reset and just fight a different battle than the white dragon, because like as long as you're not getting like a non-standard party formation, you have more than 50% odds for Gao or the equivalent to show up. And I don't know how many battles I wasted there. It was like 15 minutes, and I was going friggin' crazy. Not gonna lie.
I counted at least,
yeah,
at least 5 or 6 resets I counted on there. I think I lost count on that one.
Yeah, like I was like, this is gonna cost me the race right here. This is gonna be it. So, you know, I don't subscribe to sunk cost fallacy, so I eventually abandoned it, and I felt so behind that I just went to the Coliseum. It's like, please give me something to catch up here.
Well, pretty much, you actually had a pretty decent lead at that point, but the Velt actually did allow Locke to catch up quite a bit on them, unfortunately for you. But I noticed, yeah, you had a lot of dead checks going through everything, and I'm just like counting all these dead checks, and I'm like, oh my god, he's got to be frustrated at this point.
Yeah, I finished with 9 characters. I don't know how many dead checks I had, close to 10, honestly. Like, I'm like, oh, here's economizer number 4 or whatever it was at that point. It's just it was a frustrating one. I mean, I'm glad I won and all. I'm pretty sure the Valiant Knives basically saved that entire race for me, but I really didn't think that I was going to win this thing at about the hour mark after the Velt just completely blew up in my face, and then I was fighting my controller for blitz inputs, so I lost a few more minutes on spicy chicken there, having to redo the fight a few times.
Oh my gosh, both of you were really struggling with spicy chicken on there. We were kind of like, going back and forth as to who was going to be the first one to finish. You managed to.
Oh, I had spicy chicken dead to rights in that first fight there. I just missed like 3 attempts at bum rush. He gave me 7 turns. That's more than 65k damage if I hit every bum rush. It was just like I don't know. Maybe nerves were getting to me. Maybe I was still tilted. I still kind of am. So it's hard to say. It was a frustrating race, but I'm glad to have survived.
It definitely went back and forth at a lot of times. Each of you had your fair share of lucky breaks and horrible luck. I definitely invite you to rewatch the VOD at the end there. But in the final tower itself, it went back and forth multiple times. We were talking about how your times throughout the tournament have been typically faster than this. And so what was going through your head? How far did you think you were behind? Did that affect any of your decision making, especially with Poltergeist and maybe leaving the tower? Was that something that crossed your mind?
Leaving the tower was completely out of the question at that point. like I'm dealing over 8k per bum rush with Mog. It's a winnable fight. Just throw the flame shield on there and just keep throwing your attacks out and you'll get through. So never even crossed my mind to stack a party for that.
I wanted to ask you
Definitely,
about. I just want to say I wanted to ask about the Welk fight because I counted 12 bum rushes on the shell.
Yeah. Well, that's just things evening out because I fought 2 3-part bosses where my bum rushers hit the main boss every single time without issue. So that's just that's just odds evening themselves out over a larger sample size.
Yeah, I think it was your Kefka at Narsh. Yeah, two bum rushes and you were done on that one with the Air Force.
Yeah, with the
Air
Air
Force.
Force and again with Rexol, wherever that fight was. So,
Yeah.
if I'm going to have that happen and then go into Welk and basically win by killing the shell, which I'm pretty sure is what happened. It's hard to tell when you finish with an offering attack, but yeah.
And another place that you definitely had an advantage was on Magic Master. You were able to get him out on the first try.
Well, that just lined up well for me. The Bob of Breaths basically saved my 2 bum rushers, so it's like, okay, I don't have a problem here. But, I guess if I lost both of them, I did have those fixed dice sitting in my inventory, which I did bring out in desperation against one boss, Charternook, because it's like, oh, I forgot to heal my party, so I actually need to use these dumb things now.
Hey, it worked. Whatever
Yeah,
works.
It did.
With this seed in particular, this set of flags was interesting because of the Mog Umaro start. And that obviously makes things a little more fixed. What would your strategy going for Kefka and Narsh? Because that is going to come up sooner rather than later with those 2 starting characters.
Well, if you have a Mog Umaro start, going through Narsh is the play because you do Mog's check, Kefka Narsh, and you can see if there's a character at Umaro. So my thoughts for this seed were I'm going to do a battle at the start of the seed, no matter what, no questions asked, so I didn't even look at my abilities or nothing like that till I got in the fight. Ended up gaining, I think, 6 levels from the first pack I fought, and I noticed Mog had Blitz, so it's like, well, I looked at the flag, so I'm going to go pick up Bum Rush, and that should hopefully trivialize whatever boss is waiting for me up at Narsh, and then the start got better. You got 2 characters right away, go, so there you have 2 bum rushers from the word go. You get Terra, who's usually one of the better characters. Not so much so tonight. Couldn't use the best weapons, so I wasn't able to have both a Valiant Knifer and a Jumper, but if you have 2 Valiant Knives, Genji and Offering, there's no more potent offensive combo in this game, so you gotta use that.
Yeah, we saw that, especially that Valiant Knife in the last battle. I timed it. Your Kefka battle was 37 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, tier 4 was the least of my concerns. It's like, if I can get Locke up there, he's dead in 2 attacks. I get an attack for free, and then, he'll waste a turn charging, and then I finish him off. So the other characters just kind of stood there. And, yeah, I made mincemeat of the later tiers, just because I was doing, 6k 8 times a turn, so that's like 48,000 damage a turn, so yeah, nothing was going to survive that.
Yeah, just a little something there.
I think we're going to get Locke in here in a minute. Is there anything else you wanted to add or any other thoughts? Anything you want to say to chat?
Well, there is a hockey game going on that I'm going to catch the tail end of here. Bruins are going to win, move on. Let's go, Bruins!
I haven't even checked the score yet. Should probably look at that.
I haven't checked either.
Oh, you're up 3-1. Look at that.
All right. Well, so you're going into the Returners Bracket Finals against Javinator. Any thoughts on that?
Well, Javinator's the guy that sent me down here, so I guess I got another revenge match coming up here. And then I'll lose to Doesn't in the final, as is the tradition.
Never say never, though.
In Rando, anything can happen, as we have seen.
Correct. It's not over till it's over.
It isn't
Cool.
over till the Yeti sings.
Thanks for putting together the old restream there on short notice. I hope people had fun watching this spectacular dumpster fire of a race between me and Locke, and have a nice night.
Thank you, and good night.
Thank you again. All right. Sent an invite to Locke, so hopefully he will be in here in a minute. Oh, there he is.
I see him. Yep.
GG Locke.
GG's. I'm happy to be free.
Well, I mean, that was an exciting race between the two of you. Yeah, the difference, 1 minute and 28 seconds. I mean, it's very difficult to get any closer than that.
I know what the difference was, too. Currently, on the airship, Gogo and Umaro have a Moogle charm on them. I had one Moogle charm.
Who's walking those out?
That's right.
Yep, one Moogle charm, that entire Kefka's Tower.
Yeah, it was... the two of you were completely back and forth throughout most of it, especially when you both got to the spicy chicken fight. You were both having issues with that one.
If I had anyone else with Terra there, it would have been fine. Anyone else, Mog would have just bum rushed. Locke would have killed him in one hit. Anything else?
Yeah,
it was definitely a wall that both you had, and the race was definitely going to come down to who could manage to get by Poltergeist first, since both of you took a few attempts to get by it.
Should have just broken the shield, honestly. I should have just taken them off, broken them. Would have done faster, but that's what happens.
So walk us through what was going through your mind with the Magi Master at the Penumbra spot. Definitely seemed like that was a little bit rough for you.
I was gonna put it off for as long as possible, which was, I think, a check later, because I think I had Phoenix Cave, and that was it. And that didn't give me a character, so I'm like, well, I have to do it. So, luckily at a Phoenix Cave, I got Carbuncle, I think it was. So, going back is like, all right, whatever. He's gonna kill himself for me. So.
Very true.
If I had found an offering beforehand, though, that would have been easier. But
I was actually just about to ask that. You went into the Storm Dragon in Narsh. You noped out of that, and then you went back much later and found the offering. What's going through your head once you finally saw that offering?
Hooray, another one. Basically, because I was gonna have Mog be an offering user too. But Mog didn't end up doing so good with it, so I just left it up to Locke. But I had a feeling when I was first at the Storm Dragon in the beginning, I wasn't going to be able to kill him because I was like level 15 at the time. So I don't think there was a way I was going to actually be able to kill that thing without a lot of time and effort into it.
Without some grinding, or at least...
Definitely.
Or maybe at least potentially doing Umaro Cave first, maybe?
Yeah. But then at that point, when
it's definitely the hardest dragon, though. It took Jack a little bit to take out, but he managed to get it in around that level in that route.
I like the Umaro Cave giving me 4 Minervas, though. That was fun.
Yeah, we saw that. I gave you a hello nurse for that one. You'll hear that on the restream.
Like, the first one I saw was like, great, I got one, I'll just kill off the rest of them, see if I get any more. 2 more, drop them, like, perfect, full party. Only Terra can use it. I'm like, alright, whatever. Get to the item. Here's another one. I'm like, really?
Speaking of plentiful items, how happy were you to check the Coliseum early? Jack also checked it, but it was much later in his run, so you were able to prepare for the Valiant Night a lot earlier.
That was so nice. I mean, honestly, if I was smarter, I would have gone to go buy more Fire Scrolls, gambled those into Fire Shields, cleared everything out. Like, Magi Master would have been cake. A lot of the earlier bosses would have been dead to Fire Shields. Just break them all. But I didn't remember where I bought the Fire Scrolls at, so I kind of didn't do that.
What were you thinking about that last random encounter that you had doing the Moogle Charm, the level 5 Doom?
I'm so mad. I was like 3 steps away from the button. I'm like, all right, just gotta menu real quick. Get the Genji glove on. I'm good. Random character's like, no, you're gonna die real quick.
Oh,
Great.
gosh.
I'm glad I just saved.
It definitely was the twist of the knife going into that. According to my notes, I mean, you obviously finished minute and a half behind Jack, but you actually got through the final battle 2 minutes quicker than him. And so it definitely that was one of the few small things that was just the difference maker, unfortunately, because that
Yeah,
is how
I mean,
randos can be sometimes.
Yeah. Your Kefka fight was 27 seconds.
yeah, he died real quick. I got my ton ready during the entire just animation. I'm like, yeah, he's dead. I know he's dead. Um, but the thing is, this will teach you that if you realize you left your Moogle charms on the airship when you first dropped into Kefka's Tower, just go back and get them. I realized it when I dropped in, but I was like, I want you to be fine. It was not fine. It was not fine.
Definitely a lot of menuing to manage all that, and I think you took another battle in Kefka Sour too, if I remember correctly. There was two you
Like
took against the
3.
Moogle Charm. Yeah.
I think Mog got one, but I know there was a Garm commando fight that I couldn't run from that took about a
Yeah.
minute because they almost killed me.
And you broke a shield on too.
Yeah, I needed them dead because I took off the offering on accident. Otherwise, I would have just smacked them in the face, but I didn't help.
And that hurt you because of you had to use an X potion there, which hurt Locke's offense a little bit, having to get him back down to lower HP.
Yeah, which I mean, Kefka helped me out with that, critting him for like 4K in one shot. I'm like, all right, you didn't kill him, so I guess it works for me.
What are your thoughts on the Coliseum as a whole, the tournament?
I had fun. It was definitely a lot of fun. I'm just glad to be done because during the Coliseum, I was also in like 4 other tournaments. So trying to juggle all of this together, I'm glad for this break now.
A lot of what,
Well,
32
take
that
a much
started?
deserved rest.
Yes, out of 32 that started, you came in fourth, so not too shabby. Did much better than
Yeah.
me, I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, I came into the tournament as a top seed, got knocked out, so I mean, anything can happen. It's rando.
Well, is there anything else you want to add? Any other thoughts? Anything you want to say the Jack?
All I got is GG's. Go win it. Since I can't, go win it. He got his
Hopefully
revenge
you
from
will.
the Kefka Grand Prix as well.
That is true. This was a grudge match, something that our chat was very excited to see a rematch of.
Yeah, you both really did put on a show. Thank you for such a great race.
Thank you, and thank you for getting the restream together real quick right at the end. I'll have to watch this back later.
Yes, major props to Javiner for that. That was a last minute audible to get him in. If it wasn't for him being free, we might not have been able to put this on for you guys. So everyone give him a follow, give him GG's, thank yous, all that.
Put some praise for Javinator in the chat now.
Yeah. All right, I think that about does it for round 8 here. Like we said, Jack will be going up against Javator for the next round. To be determined. They'll have to figure out their schedule for that. And yeah, Yako, do you have any parting words?
Yeah, just check out the Discord and we'll find out when that race is going to be. And then the winner of that race will face Doesn't in the finals. Definitely want to send another thanks to Javinator for getting this together, for getting this stream together. And also thank you to Ceiling Cat for being our tracker. Make sure you follow them as well. I think their links are somewhere in the chat there. I think the Nightbot's there. And if this is your first time seeing Final Fantasy VI Worlds Collide Randomizer, come check us out. We've got our Discord. We've got a great community. We've got a lot of resources for new players. And who knows, maybe you'll be in the semifinals in the next race.
That's right. It's anyone's game. I started Worlds Collide a week before this Coliseum and went all the way to the top 12. So you never know if something interests you. Like this, you could be in this slot. Next time we do this. And make sure you follow our runners. Both of them put on a heck of a show. They're both some of our top tier talents. They constantly are putting up amazing times and doing some great stuff. So give them both a follow. Check them out. And give them lots of love.
All right, well, I think that's about all she wrote for this race. So I will say my good night. This is Yakko Wacko. Have a good night. Be safe out there. We'll see you the next time we're here.
Yep. See everyone later.